Topping the list right now is the Pope's announcement about forgiveness for women who've had abortions and how Catholics are viewing the discourse in Kentucky. So let's get to it with editor of the Catholic World Report, Carl Olson. Carl, thanks so much for joining us. And let me go ahead and begin specifically with what the Pope has said here in the last 24 hours. Basically making an announcement about abortion, giving priests the authority to absolve the Catholic sin during the upcoming Year of Mercy, which begins December the 8th. Is this now saying that abortion is acceptable?
No, not at all. In fact, if you read the full text of what the Pope says, he points out there that this absolution, of course, is for those who seek to procure it, that is, who come to confession with a contrite heart and seek forgiveness for having the abortion. And so always with any kind of forgiveness or absolution, there has to be that act of confession, of contrition of heart. And so it's not changing anything about what the Church teaches about the grave evil, the grave sin of abortion. What it is doing is really providing, I think, an impetus for people to be more open to seeking that out. I mean, this is really part of a extension of what the Pope has been doing with his call for more mercy.
If he takes on abortion in this sense for 1 year, do you see it ever becoming something more? Because let's be very frank, there are people out there who continually look at abortion because of incest, because of rape, because of physical violence, and they say, regardless of the religion involved, the people should have the ability to make their own choice in such heinous cases.
No, I think this is absolutely, totally, it's an apples and oranges situation. Abortion, that is the taking of an innocent life in the womb, is always wrong, period. Objectively is always evil in the eyes of the Church. You know, the thing that is misunderstood, I think, about this is that actually priests already in the United States are able to absolve those who come forward and confess the sin of abortion, either having had an abortion or committed an abortion as an abortionist. But there's other parts of the world where that's not been the case. That right has been reserved for bishops. And there's a really complicated history here in the canon law. It's so complicated that, in fact, my canon law professor, Dr. Edward Peters, who's one of the leading canon lawyers in the United States, wrote a post about this earlier, and he said, it's so complicated, I can't even do it justice in this lengthy post I'm writing. So I think abortion, the key thing is abortion is always going to be an objectively evil thing. What the Pope, I think, is really trying to emphasize is he's really encouraging people to seek out the confessional, to really say, hey, even if you've committed a really horrible sin, and of course, there's always factors too. There's culpability as to whether a person, was completely subjectively complicit in something like an abortion. But if you've committed this act, search your conscience, come forward, seek confession. I think this is really the message of Francis. Come to confession, get right with God.
Let me then take up something else that is considered evil by many people in religious faiths, and that is gay marriage. And I want to specifically look at what's happening in Kentucky right now, where a clerk of courts has said that because of her religious beliefs, she is refusing to issue marriage licenses. Now, here's something I found interesting. A new study's revealed that a majority of American Catholics are okay with same-sex marriage, and they believe that Pope Francis supports such a relationship as well. This is stunning for people who have followed the Catholic canon for many years here to even see this, but does it not show us that there is much more of a forgiveness? And maybe, I know I'm going to anger some people by saying this, but it seems as if Catholics may be more enlightened than others when it comes down to gay marriage. Make some sense of this, would you please?
Well, first of all, those Catholics who believe that Pope Francis supports gay marriage haven't been paying attention to what the Pope has been saying, especially in the last year, where he's reiterated in many different contexts the fact that marriage is between a man and a woman only, and that's the perennial teaching of the Church, and that's always going to be the teaching of the Church. This is something the Pope can't change. Even if Pope Francis believed that, quote-unquote, gay marriage was a good thing, and I don't think he does, based on his public statements, he can't change it. It simply won't happen.
Look, Carl, I've only got about 30 seconds left, but what does it say then when 60% of these Catholics said, yes, gay and lesbian couples should have the right to marry? Does it indicate perhaps that as this Pope is moving forward, that he too may have to look forward to the future at a time when the people who follow the Church believe in something, and that maybe it may force the Church overall to change?
No, because the Church doesn't rely on a democratic vote based on the majority of opinion. It relies on the deposit of faith given by Jesus Christ. And part of that deposit of faith is the perennial and consistent teaching that marriage is between a man and a woman. It means that 60% of Catholics are wrong.
Carl Olson, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Stay with us. The fastest 60 minutes in news continues.